What is up, guys? Welcome back to OverTakes. This is Misfit, and we are going to be doing our Week 25 preview on this episode. We did have a little bit of news going on. We'll get to that in a minute. But first, I'd like to thank everybody out there on YouTube for joining me. Thank you very much. If you're new on YouTube, please hit a like, hit a subscribe, hit the alert bell. It'll alert you when we do some content. We do it a couple times a week, anywhere from 2 to 4 times a week, depending. We're working on some new stuff, like I've been saying in the last couple episodes. We're going to have that for you next week. If you're on podcast land, out in podcast land, thank you very much for listening, and let's get to it. All right, so we had some news. Apparently, after seeing Super's Genji, which wasn't terrible, San Francisco decided to go out and get a player. I'm assuming they had this in the works beforehand, and they were playing Boston, so they figured they'd give it a go, but they signed Teo from Third Impact. Plays some hit scan, plays a lot of different things. He got a good hero pool. Looks like he's going to be their Genji player for now. He played things like Hanzo and stuff like that too, so he's got a good hero pool. Played on Third Impact. He's also the first Japanese player in the league, which is something to note. We're probably going to see him this week too. Their schedule isn't exactly rough. They got Dallas and they got Vancouver for their second match. They have the Mayhem first, but there's San Francisco, and we'll talk about that more later on, but they should be fine throwing him in there. We'll see how it goes. I mean, Super wasn't bad. I think it was just an experiment or something fun that they were trying to do. And, styling on Boston isn't hard to do. So, also, we did have some things about the playoffs I didn't get into. I guess we're going to be doing them in Asia, seemingly South Korea. They want to get everybody in the same area, and it makes sense to have it over there. I was thinking, they could do it in the arena where they had the, Apex, but I don't think they're going to be doing LAN. They just want everybody in the same region. And we'll see further from there with that. That's probably going to do it for the news. We really didn't have much going on as far as that kind of thing. We talked about Baby B retiring and Neptuno's visa issues. And so we had the Tayo signing. And now let's get into Week 25. Now we saw a bunch of different combos and metas and that kind of thing last week. We had people playing Rhine Diva, Rhine Sigma, even Winston, Diva and Winston kind of things. Some Wrecking Ball on tank. We mostly saw, like we said, Genji play, but and usually comboed with either. Sometimes people are doing Tracer Genji and Sombra Genji, which is, I kind of liked that. We got a lot of Zen play, which I'm assuming we're going to continue to see. It's interesting to see where this meta is shaking out for this. And I think some teams are benefiting from what's going on, and some teams we haven't seen yet. A couple of them, 2 of them being Shanghai and Philly, which we're going to get to see this week. So we'll see what they got in store. But the schedule, we don't have a ton of great games on this slate. We have some duds. We do have a couple of ones that we are going to look at this week. Now, the ones I'm looking at as far as, I'm going to watch closely, which this one I would watch closely anyway. First one we're going to talk about is Mayhem Shock. I mean, we'll go over let's go over the whole schedule, and then we'll talk about what matches we're talking about. Friday, we got Atlanta, Boston, followed by Florida, San Francisco. Saturday, we're going to have in APAC, we're going to have Seoul, Chengdu, Shanghai, London, New York, Guangzhou, and then back to NA, we're going to have San Francisco, Vancouver, the Mayhem and the Justice. Then we have Boston, Dallas, and then finishing the day off with Philly and the Gladiators. Sunday, we're going to have some more APAC action. We're going to have Chengdu and Hangzhou, Shanghai and Seoul. And then back to NA, we got the Gladiators and the Eternal, Toronto and Philly. And we finished the weekend off with the Washington Justice and the Houston Outlaws. Now, the matches we're going to talk about, obviously, first one, let's talk a little bit about Florida and San Francisco. I think this one is one to watch just because we want to see what Florida can do against the teams above them. think we've pretty much figured out that they're a solid 4 in the league, between 4 and 6, depending on how some of these teams are coming up, or if some teams are going to drop down, which that doesn't look too likely, depending on what Philly does, and Paris doesn't look like they're going anywhere. But I want to see what Florida does against San Francisco. I want to see if they can maintain the level of play that they had against Atlanta with their tank line. Their tank line looked really, really good. San Francisco. Now, are we going to see Tayo in this one? Or are we going to see the Super Genji again? Don't really know. I don't know if they're going to want to roll out Super on Genji against the Mayhem when they have Yaki and BQB. But let's see what San Francisco does here. But I'm more focused on, even as a fan and not as a fan, to see if Florida can hang with San Francisco. They hung with them at the end of the May Melee tournament. Let's see, with a different meta, some different things going on, different hero pool, if they can at least stay close with the Shock. Next match we're going to talk about. We are going to hit Saturday. One of the APAC matches that it piqued my interest, and I'm going to watch closely, is going to be the NYXL versus the Guangzhou Charge. I think this means a lot to New York to see if we can see if they bounce back from that weird / bad performance that they had against Chengdu last week. Playing probably the best team, one of the best teams in the region in Guangzhou, them and Shanghai being the 2 best. We're going to see if they can do something here, if they figure out if they're going to play Who Are You, Hacksaw, what they're going to do. Guangzhou, on the other hand, they looked perfectly fine last week. They just continue to impress me with their play. The happy Eileen looks great. Support line looks great. Krong, Rookie of the Year candidate. And, Rhea is looking pretty good on main tank, too. We'll see where this goes. I think that if New York just picks a style, and, CBOB looked good. Anti-Farah, it was hard to say, because they were playing Chengdu, and Chengdu was running weird stuff. They seemed to have a grasp on what they were doing, but then Chengdu just boomed them. But this match, I'm looking forward to seeing what they roll out against Guangzhou. Guangzhou, I think, is solidified themselves as a good team. Some people may have thought that they were kind of fluky on the last minute. I think that right now, besides San Francisco, Paris, and Shanghai, they're the most consistent team in the league. I would put them at overall somewhere top 5 for sure. Maybe throw in Philly, depending on I want to see what Philly does this week, which we're going to talk about next. We're going to talk about Philly versus the only Saturday match really worth talking about. Saturday we have San Francisco, Vancouver, and Florida, Washington, and Boston taking on Dallas, which we kind of know where those are going to go. Philly Gladiators now. Philly is coming off the Summer Showdown, losing to Paris, which it was a fantastic match. They looked really good. Paris just was slightly better than them in that match. The Gladiators looked more like the Gladiators last week with their win. They ran some different stuff. They ran Bishu on Wrecking Ball. Their DPS line looked better. They just seemed more consistent and more together. I want to see what they do this week against some better opponents. Vancouver just hasn't put it together yet. They're kind of dropping a little bit in my mind. I thought they were going to be a little bit better, but the Gladiators are playing better, and I also didn't think the Gladiators would be playing better. I just kind of thought they were going to stay where they were at, maybe move up a little bit. But they seem to be getting things back on track. Philly's going to be a tough task, though. The Fusion are coming off that loss. I know they're going to be ready to play. They're going to be ready to get back into this, get back into where they were, potentially get back into the discussion of the top 2 teams in the league. Now, they got EQO and Carpe, and they also have one of the best support lines in the league, top 3, with Alarm and Funny Astro. Occasionally Boombox, who's been playing a really, really good Baptiste when he's been in there. I'm looking for this to be a really close match. I'd say 5 maps for sure. Well, I mean, not for sure. 5 maps is definitely in the cards here, or a close 3-1. One of the teams kind of weighing it out at the end. I'm leaning towards Philly, but I'm thinking that the Gladiators, the way they played in the last couple of in the last match, they're going to be able to stay with them and just continue to move upward a little bit. I don't think they're ready to beat Philly yet, but I think this is a good test for them to see if we can see where they're at. I want to see some more from Oj. I want to see him continue to play well or play better. He played good against Vancouver, but that's right now. I don't know if that's saying much. The last match we're going to talk about for the weekend, we're going to stick on the Gladiators front. Now, this is going to go with. They have a tough week, by the way. They play 2 of the top 3 teams in the region, where they got the second match they have the weekend. They play Paris, so we're going to see what happens here. I'm thinking they have a better chance against Philly than they do against Paris, just because Paris right now. If you look at their roster, they have 4 Rookie of the Year candidates you could go with: Hanbin, Sparkle, Eggsy, FD God. You could even throw Fielder in there. Their whole roster is potentially the Rookie of the Year, which is unbelievable right now. They're just playing at an unbelievable level. But the Gladiators in this one, they have to weather the storm, the Sparkle storm. I don't know if they're ready to face a team like Paris. I think Paris is vastly better than them, but I want to see, much like the last match against Philly, if they can hang. If they could take a map or 2 away from them, we might be looking for better things from the Gladiators. Paris, I think they're just going to continue to keep the ball rolling. They're unbelievable. Like we said, all the Rookie of the Year candidates. This meta works perfectly for them. They can run. They run in soon, who they played a lot of last week. You got Eggsy to do things. You have Nico that can do things. You Sparkle on the Genji, and the list of guys that we talked about before. Their main tanks have been holding out okay. They're not my favorite part of this team, but we'll see what happens. I want to see the Gladiators see if they can combat the level of play that the DPS line for Paris has with theirs. Birdring's been playing good. Mir, okay. Kevster, okay. Those 2 guys are kind of coming around a little bit. I just want to see whether they can keep up with Paris. I don't think they're going to beat them. I want to see if they can keep it up with Paris and make it close, or if Paris is just going to do what they've done to everybody else, or the last couple weeks, just stomping people. Okay, and then we had one other match that I'm intrigued by, and this is the last match of the weekend. Is Washington and Houston. I think this is going to be a fun match to watch. Also, we want to see where Washington and Houston are after bad weeks last week. Beginning of the week, Washington also on Saturday they have to play the Mayhem, so they could be looking bad. They just have not looked good no matter who's on their roster. I want to see these guys come around. They look like they were doing better in the tournament. They beat the Gladiators, but at that point, I don't know if that was anything. The Gladiators were playing terrible. I want to see what they can do. Houston could be on their level. They did not have they had a good first 2 maps against Dallas and a terrible last 3 maps. Maybe not terrible. They could have won it. They just seemed a little off last week. I don't know if it's the non-Orisa stuff, like we were talking about with some of these teams, where it enables a lot of the play that we have going on, and they don't have that, so they're kind of trying to find where they're at. Hydration maybe not as good on the other tanks as they need him to be. Winston, Ryan, that kind of thing. He's not terrible. I don't think he's a liability, but he's not at a really high level on those 2 tanks where he's proving to make a difference. I just want to see some stuff from Houston. I want to see them come out after a tough loss and beat a team that they should beat. Washington, on the other hand, watching them, I want to see them beat a team that's close to their level. I want to see them be able to come out, do some things with the roster that's not terrible on paper. If you look at it, it's not the worst roster I've ever seen. Tuba's got a really good Genji. You have Stitch. You have a decent enough on paper support line with Arc and Aim God. You got Janu, and then you have your main tank, which seems to be the issue here. With Roar, kind of an even match on paper. Gameplay-wise, though, Houston has played better lately. Washington's fallen down again. So, I don't know. I thought this would be a good meta for Washington, but I'm beginning to think nothing is a good meta for Washington right now except for the season's end. And then, of course, they're going to restart over again. Those are the matches I'm looking at. Let's head into the final segment of our preview. We're going to do the right-click picks, where I go down the whole gamut of games and give you who I like. And generally, lately, we've been losing. Having faith in certain teams is not a good thing. But let's do this. Let's go down the list. We're going to start off on Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have the Atlanta Reign taking on the Boston Uprising. We got to go Atlanta. There's nothing Boston can do at all. Next match on Friday, we have the Florida Mayhem taking on the San Francisco Shock. Even though I'm a Mayhem fan, I'm going to have to go Shock. In a close one, I'm going to take San Francisco. Probably like a 3-2, 3-1, close 3-1. I think Florida gives them a little bit of a fight. Next match on Saturday, we head to APAC, 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Seoul Dynasty take on the Chengdu Hunters. Oh, this is going to be a potential clown fiesta. I'm going to go with Seoul reluctantly in this. Don't be surprised if Chengdu wins, though. Next match on Saturday from the APAC region, we have Shanghai taking on London. I'm going to go Shanghai. London faltered a little bit last week. Shanghai's coming off of the loss to Guangzhou at the end of the Summer Showdown. I think they're ready to go. And I think this is going to be a pretty easy win for Shanghai. Next match, we have the New York Excelsior taking on the Guangzhou Charge. I'm going to take the Charge in this one. I think that they're just better than New York. I think New York gives them a fight, but I think Guangzhou wins it in the end. Next match on Saturday, we head back to NA. We have the San Francisco Shock taking on the Vancouver Titans. I'm going to go with the San Francisco Shock. Next match on Saturday, Florida Mayhem take on the Washington Justice. Florida all the way in this one. I think this is going to be similar to their match against Atlanta, score-wise. Next match on Saturday, Dallas Fuel, Boston Uprising. Dallas in a quick one. They should make quick work of Boston. Big match on Saturday night. We have the Fusion taking on the Gladiators. I am going to go with Philly in this one by a little bit. I think the Gladiators are coming back. I think Philly look good. We're going to see a good match here. But I'm going to take Philly. All right, now for the Sunday matches, we head back to APAC, 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have the Chengdu Hunters taking on the Hangzhou Spark. I think Hangzhou's rising. I'm going to take them in this one. Next match on Sunday, we have the Dragons taking on the Dynasty. In what should be a good match, but won't be. Dragons, 3-0. Now back to NA. On Sunday, we have the Gladiators taking on the Eternal. We talked about this one a little bit earlier. I'm going to go with the Eternal in this one. Next match, we have the Defiant taking on the Fusion. I think the Defiant put up a fight, but I think Philly's too much for them in the end. Final match of the weekend, we have the Justice taking on the Outlaws. I take them taking the Outlaws in this one. I think this is a good rebound chance for them. I want to see something from the Justice, but I just don't think we're going to get it. Houston wins this one, I think 3-1 we'll go with. All right, so that is going to do it for the McRedcliffe picks, and that is going to do it for the episode today, guys. Doing our preview edition for the week. Look for some more stuff coming up either later this week or beginning next week. I got some things I'm working on. We're going to do some different things. Got something working on as far as doing like a Players of the Week thing, and we're going to kind of work on that. Just trying to get I got to get some video and some editing things down. Had a lot of stuff to rework over the last couple weeks, so I'm still kind of trying to catch up on that. I apologize for the lack of content, but I just had a lot of other things I had to do as far as the channel and stuff like that and fixing things and whatnot. But we're going to have some more stuff. I got something, like I said, in the works for some player type things, Players of the Week. We're going to have some fun with that. Maybe do it like I was saying, Match of the Week. Probably going to include that on our review show. We're going to pick 2 matches and we're going to talk about those a little more extensively, go over the scores instead of, after we do like the whole macro of the week, what we liked, what we saw, and then we'll dive into a couple of good matches. Hopefully we get a couple of good matches this week. We had two close matches last week that were kind of, I wouldn't call them good. At least one of them was not good. It was weird Overwatch, but, that's what happens when Chengdu's involved. But anyway, that's going to do it for this one. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I really appreciate all the support that everyone's been giving me. Everyone on YouTube, thank you very much. If you're new on YouTube and you like what you're hearing, seeing, please give a like and a subscribe. Hit that bell for alerts for when we have content coming up. Everybody out there in podcast land, thank you very much. If you're on iTunes, please give us a review. That'd be fantastic. Everybody else on your podcaster of choice, if there's a way to give us a rating or a like or that kind of thing, I would greatly appreciate it. Give us some feedback. All the social media links are down below. You can always contact me there. We do have a Discord server. If you would like to join that, that would be fantastic as well. We're going to start doing some more stuff on there. Thanks, everybody, for everything. You enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the matches this weekend. This is Misfit. I'm out. See you on the next one.